Call this meeting of the Perry Township Board of Trustees to order. First order of business, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before you are two sets of minutes. One, I believe Andy was not at, vote on it. And then Michelle's on board. You were gone, so I think the 6th, you and I can vote on, right? So I look for a motion to approve the minutes for March 6th. I'll make that motion. Second vote? Yes. Yes. And then the next one, for March 20th, I look for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second vote?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Wait, yeah. We have Andy's abstention.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Public comment period. The sheriff's department, anything happening?
Per usual, nothing, just here to listen and learn and take it all in.
Gather all that wonderful information. Okay.
You guys need anything for me?
No.
She kind of talked a little bit here and there.
Public comment period. Start with Worthington Hills, Michelle gets here. Let's see, Worthington Hills, May 6th is garage sale. And I believe hopefully Charlie's scheduled for the annual meeting. I believe it's the 20th. It's ringing a bell.
The committee meeting.
This is their annual membership meeting. It's what they usually. But Charlie should be next. And I know that we have the dates for the parade committee, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of that. Okay. With them, okay. Anything from Econ or Ravello? Yes, there is. And I'll leave Brookside alone for a while. Zoning.
Actually waiting for Jen to give us a price. She was supposed to look through all the zoning code and give us a price for what she thinks. Number one, answer the questions that we had, and two, give us a price before she dug in on the zoning code. We didn't, so I got to follow up with her and find where that's at. So that's and then we got Mike, we've approved, Beth, we paid Mike, we just need to approve kind of behind the scenes on his invoices, because I went through all of his invoices. And there's nothing in there that I saw that was out of line. Basically did everything that we had asked him to do, including up into the point. So I think we just have to approve his amounts up to 35,606.97, and then there'll be one more tonight that we got to talk about. That will just take us through the cost estimating, and then we can put a bow on schematic design and then decide where we want to go from there. So I'll make a motion to approve payments to Mike Lusk in the amount of 35,606.97. Future payments will be pre-approved prior to any work being done.
That's all one motion.
That's all one motion.
Yeah. Second vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then motion to approve the Brightly software, which is a renewal from $6,812.96, the annual fee for our Smart Gut program. I'll move to approve that.
Second vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, road department, Ian is on vacation, aqua water line project and Circle in the Green. It's going well, ahead of schedule, actually. And they were at 140, 1048, at just past 1048 at the end of the week, circle on the green. I'm sure they're well past that tonight, and they're gonna do the circle, and they're gonna come back and do the inside and connect it all. And but other than, I think the individual connections to the homes, every so often when I drive through there, I mean, it doesn't look like there's much destruction in the yard. So, I believe Nate is supposed to go up and talk with Sam, the inspector, later this week, so he'll get with Luke to get an update.
Last of my last.
They did what for your mail?
They still look at that. Big huge crack.
Could they hit anybody on the mailbox? Okay. Okay. And then the Iron Court waterline project is in essence complete. The country club has to complete a bond for some work that they want to do on their property. I think it's like 20 feet into their property for a connection. And this week they're coming back to do any yard restoration that has to be done with the disruption of that, especially that one home at the end. So, and then I believe, Beth, we have in the Dropbox mileage certification, which I think increased from last year to this year by 0.4. So just slightly.
The original is 16.2.
Okay. I look for, I'll make a motion that we approve the mileage certification as presented in the Dropbox.
I'll second.
Vote?
Yes.
Yes. And that's all I have. So, fire and EMS. Yeah. Police department.
I have, the only things I have tonight, we have much thanks and help to do. We have completed our annual report for 2022. In a Dropbox, if you would take a look at it and before we post or send it out, just review it, if any comments, concerns, or questions. Secondly, April 22nd, we have the DEA drug take back that we will be hosting again here. Well, not hosting, I'm sorry, we'll be taking part in. And Officer Wood will be here to man that for the 4 hours as well.
We're going to send out a notice to the residents.
We'll get with
Yeah. In Brookside.
There.
How are you?
That's traffic out there.
It
Did
is.
everybody be on spring break or something? Is it Brookside?
Brookside
Okay.
public comment.
So Easter egg hunt is this weekend, this Saturday. And I think you have everything you need for that.
Yes.
And the garage sale is July or June 10th.
I'm sorry, June 10th.
10th, yes. Well, that's
Okay.
about
Anything
it.
else? Okay. Okay. Madam Administrator.
Alrighty, there has not been any updates regarding the ODOT. Let's see, going to. Did you need to address the cameras or no?
You can remove that from the
Oh.
agenda.
All right, sorry about that. I want to let everyone know that the next meeting, I will have the levy information, the resolutions on for you folks. My question is, you have the ability to put both on the 2023 ballot? It's just that second one would get collected in 2025. So do you want to do both at once? So we can move forward with the ballot, getting it on the ballot and the voting, or do you want to do 1 year, this year and 1 year next year?
If the one supposed to be next year doesn't get approved, we still get it's like we still get another
You
shot.
get
or-
another shot at it.
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I'd rather put both on and do it that
Or
way.
explain
than-
once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
explain once.
I think it will make more sense to folks too versus
Yeah.
trying to do, because we get so many calls when we have to do them back to back. Okay, well, good. I'll have all that information ready to go. Let's see, the wellness application we've been discussing, we are getting together with Worthington and Sharon to look at grant opportunities for that. So I'm, that's the only update for that. I wanted to let you know, we've got our BWC, I had my meeting with them, the annual meeting, and instead of a 2% rebate, we will be getting a 3% rebate this year, which is kind of nice. The Citizen Advisory Board met last Tuesday. Got to see the plans to date, asked their questions and so on and so forth. So they'll be meeting again last Tuesday of this month as a follow-up. Let's see, Andy, I didn't have this on the agenda. Do you want to go ahead and just address it now? The Lust.
Opioid.
No, the lust
Oh, yeah.
kind
And-
of ties in a little bit to that. so.
Yeah, so after the community advisory board meeting, I met with Mike, and I think going off of what Jerome kind of agreed with what Jerome Scott said is that we really don't have any more drawings that we need to produce on this. We got two good plans, one being new build, the other one being a renovation option, and then going ahead and pricing those. So what I said to Mike Lusk was, do you have an independent estimator that basically just can estimate it? Because to date now, we've been just kind of using, cash in favors. Hey, can you look at this? Can you look at this? So what this estimator is going to do is, this is what he does. He will go through both plans and evaluate new build, looking at everything from, building materials, especially on the new build, you got utilities, water lines, permitting, soft costs, because the soft costs, which are like architectural fees, landscape fees, civil engineering fees, all of those things are going to be different from a renovation to a new build option. So what he'll end up doing is he'll end up producing two estimates. One renovation, and it also includes the exterior of the building 1 and building 2, because under the renovation option, building 3 is no longer there. So everything that we've talked to date will have a true cost of what it's going to take. And then be able to look at both side by side, and then we can decide from a new build option versus a renovation option. But Mike put together a proposal, and it's $3,000 for this person to do that. I think it's a worthwhile cost estimate, true cost, and up to date based on current conditions, everything like that. So we'll truly know, are we looking at 8 million, are we looking at 3 million, or can we do it for 1.8? So that's the proposal that's in there.
So a couple questions. First of all, is this the first reading, the second reading to this?
Well, the hope was to have it by the next community board, so they can see it. So I would like to approve it tonight.
Are there,
So we can have it done by the 24th.
and is this a sole, I guess what I'm asking is, because is this what Jerome said he would do for free? Is it the program?
Yeah, and if Jerome still wants to do it for free, he can do it for free. I just think it's money well spent, especially with the amount of money that we're looking to invest on behalf of the township. It's truly going to give us what it's going to take. The only thing with Jerome is getting Jerome up to speed on it. this individual's gonna do it. So, and it'll be current construction dollars and everything.
Well, I like free.
I like free. I also like keeping our civilian advisory board impartial and separate from vendors that we're using. I mean, but
Well, how about is it possible to get more than one quote? Is he a sole source provider?
He's an independent, he is strictly gonna take, the drawings to date and, estimate them.
So is there, I guess what I'm asking, I didn't phrase that.
Go ahead.
Are there others out there that can do the same thing?
Are there? Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could go to a construction, like even, I mean, we could go to Lincoln Construction and say, and do the same thing
This
and
is what
say,
we-
hey, you know. If you guys are willing to do it, the only issue is getting people that if they know they're not gonna pay for it, it's like, how much effort are they gonna put into it? And that's, so if we hire this individual, he's getting paid to do it, put together a true estimate and give us, you know, what we need. I just don't wanna keep, I just, you know, just because it's free
Right,
and you know me, you know, I like to save money. But I think for the amount of dollar bills that we're looking, plus the whole thing of like, do we go new? Do we go renovation? This is gonna basically bring everything to a head that we're sure we have the dollar bills and everything encompassed in it.
Well, I feel like I'm a little behind because I wasn't at the last meeting and the citizens advisory meeting. I would almost think. Let's see what Jerome comes up with, because that's my understanding is kind of what he's doing. I'm a little disappointed that we don't have almost that number from Mike. I mean, I think, what are we ended him for, like? Close to $50,000 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but
If we don't have the, you know, we don't have that number, that even, I would think that would be included somehow.
well, he's done some estimating.
Right,
He's done some, he put together numbers early on, but the plans have changed. You know, they've changed, like before, we weren't looking at a metal building in the back, we were trying to renovate building 3.
right,
Now we're looking at a brand new building, they're demolishing it.
right.
So things have changed and it's like, we're now at a point where it's like, we got 2 plans. Now, everybody's got to kind of understand, and I said this on Tuesday night, we're at a preliminary stage. And it's not like the plans that we have now, if it comes back and it's like new build, like that's the plans, like the next step in this thing is what they call design development, which then you're taking the plans and you're, you know, really delving in and you're still going to be pushing and pulling and doing things like that, site modifications. But what it's going to do is at this point, it's going to tell us if you guys build new, it's going to be X. If you guys build renovation, it's going to be X. And then those prices will adjust a little bit based on the next wave of design. But we know that we're in that ballpark. And I think also going to the community and saying, hey, you know, we need your backing on this option or this option. It's going to give us a better idea of what to talk to the community about on either one of these. And to be honest with you, I think having an independent person look at it, even though it's $3,000, I actually was thinking it was going to be more than that, but for $3,000, I think it's money totally well spent.
Well, yeah, because the 3,000 is 6% of what you already got into it to find out, you know, the price in terms of, you know, today's dollars and all
Yeah.
that stuff. I realize that. So it's not that much adding on to it. I could go either way, because I could wait and see what Jerome says and what he comes up with. I don't know how quickly this guy turns it around.
Well, the goal, like if we proved it tonight, he will have the numbers ready for the next community board,
And what is
which
that?
would be the 24th of April. He said he needs about 3 weeks to.
Did Jerome give a time period that he can do things?
No, I haven't asked him the time frame. I imagine we could probably do the same thing in the same amount of time.
Because what I would have to do is I'd have to sit down with Jerome, and that's the reason why I told Beth, like she wanted me to, and I said, well, I want to hold on that meeting until we get a sense of what, you know, what the cost is going to be on this. But if we go that route, then I'd probably have to sit down with Jerome and go through everything to get him up to speed. But again, I just think an independent person would be the way to go, and then, you know, and that individual would come in and they kind of go line item by line item. This is what we're doing, but we're also gonna have a furniture allowance, you know, for that.
I'm inclined to let Jerome just see if he can do it within the first 2 weeks. That's not costing us anything.
My understanding is he came back tonight or tomorrow. I could give him a call and see how quick he could do a turnaround if you want. But I had a question. Look, does this independent person, don't you have to get him up to speed too? Or is he already
Mike's-
involved with it?
Mike's working with him to go through all of the you know, questions. And that's the other thing, like Jerome can meet with Mike as well. And I would much rather have, if we go the Jerome option, to actually have Mike sit down with Jerome and go through all of the plans, because Mike knows the biggest costs are gonna be architectural, but from a site standpoint, we're gonna have to figure in all of the utilities, and Mike's already done the code research in the city of Dublin. All of the things that Dublin's gonna be gonna require as part of this thing. So
Where's this money coming out of?
Comes out of the general.
out of the general fund.
I gotta tell, I mean, again, I think I like free, you know that. Having somebody that is part of the board that is supposed to be independently providing input. Guiding that, it doesn't seem like an independent board.
Well, and I hear what you're saying. I also. Yes, listen.
And
we-
whether it's this
we-
guy or
we-
somebody else,
We
I'm just
require,
saying,
yeah,
yeah.
we require, this is my thing about rushing through things. Is that we require 3 quotes and 2 readings and all that. And I know the board's coming and saying, hey, now we need to do this. I don't see any hesitation in
I
trying
mean,
to
if
get.
if you guys want me to get 3 more quotes, or 2 other quotes, I can get 2 other quotes. I was just hoping to hit the next, you know, community access. We started, you know, we have sort of this thing going on and it's fresh in everybody's mind to wait another month. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I can absolutely go out and get two more quotes.
So if there's 2 more, let's just say, and I don't know how long that takes. If there's 2 more quotes and there's still plenty of time prior to our next meeting. Could we do a quick special meeting to decide on a palette and try to get it before the next?
I don't think we need a special meeting. I'll just go out and probably say that we'll hit the May. I mean, who knows? They may be able to turn it around. I'll get going on it. And I'll send it out to the board and,
Or maybe they can just push their meeting by like a week or, you know what I mean? I don't know, depending on what it takes.
yeah,
I don't think there's anything magical about their meeting
Yeah,
day.
we can move it if we need to.
Well, not to throw another option into it, but. You know, like I said, full disclosure, Beth and I. Went out to Aqua. Right before we went on vacation, 3 weeks ago, maybe. And one is because I wanted to go out there and talk with them about. This project and that kind of stuff on Circle on the Green
Hit your mailbox.
before the mailbox.
I saw the picture. Okay.
Hard to look at, but.
Are you okay?
I put that mailbox. So there's some. let's just
Mental health additional.
Say that.
But
Oh, man.
I was blown away, so they were very proud, obviously, of their new facility. You know, it's 15,000 square feet. I don't know that, and that's the total square feet of their garage for their equipment. Which reminded me a little bit in terms of size. I think it wasn't quite as big as like Worthington Fire Department, but you know, the doors in the front, the doors in the back, and the big bays and all that, and it's 2 deep, and I think it held six, it was 6 bays.
6 days.
6 bays, I think. It had a covered area for their other cars that was attached to that. Their office space, they had their main conference room was probably a little bit bigger than this room. They had a big laboratory there. I had no idea they used that much lab stuff, a bunch of individual offices for people and all that. And
Funded by your rate hikes.
funded by our rate hikes.
Yeah.
The other thing that was weird, I was coming back from Savannah, they do aqua, there's a big aqua thing in Savannah. But the impressive thing about that was 15,000 square feet. They moved into it 2 years ago, so it's relatively new. I know costs have gone up. Dublin building system, it was a design build, so it was all in-house Dublin building systems. They came out, they said, here's what we're looking for, here's the size offices we need, here's some space we need, yada, yada, yada. It was essentially a prefab type building. I don't know how you would exactly describe it. From the time they broke ground to the time they moved in was 6 months. And they go, if you go to Dublin Building Systems, you can see a time lapse photography of.
Was that new site or did they have to tear down and?
No, it was they own the
Or like
property,
on the.
right, but it's built on a cement pad. So there's no basement to it, it's basically a cement pad. Sort of the front half is offices, the back half is for all their big heavy equipment, which is kind of like our big heavy equipment for our road people. And again, the 15,000 was the total square footage. It cost, I think, $2.5 million to build. A big part of that, though, was for all the special requirements they had for their lab.
850,000 of it, they said.
Was the lab portion of it. But again, we have a police portion and locker room and all that, and so on and so forth, but I don't know, maybe that's another thing to look at is to talk with folks like that who are, it's like a turnkey kind of a, design build, one-stop shopping. The prefab part of it makes it much cheaper than, okay, we're gonna be laying bricks or something like that, I was amazed by the amount of glass, I think it was a flat roof. As I recall,
I think it was a 6-12 pitch roof.
really, it was very minimal then.
It's got enough arc to it, but it was about a 6-12.
But anyway, like I said, for $2.5 million, 15,000 square feet, now, again, a big chunk of that was garage. But, had all the lighting, had wash stations out in the garage, and Mike was there too. It was very impressive.
Okay, so y'all want me to check with Jerome, is that it? To see how quick of a turnaround we're gonna get.
Yes, that's
Estimates?
one. Andy's gonna get a couple more quotes, and we're gonna check about the flexibility of the Civilian Advisory Council back there. You need data, if we can kind of push it out, if need be.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, I had to move it at least one other time.
I always forget, I have.
No, you're good.
Zoning,
We're all good.
when I say zoning, I look at Andy right away, not the zoning. Go ahead.
I'm just here to learn, so.
Any major issues?
No, just, new construction, Ravel turned in 3 plans this week, and so they're doing very good.
Yeah.
And a lot of dumpsters out there. It's a lot of construction going on.
How is the second phase of that?
They're doing well. I don't know how many lots they have left, but, we have a homeowner who wants to now put in our pit. And it's really our first time to say, we've got a courtyard and everything, but now we're gonna add to this. What do we as Perry Township, how do we do that? So we're before the law firm right now, trying to get an idea of how we go about that, because it'll be the first of probably several that, we've already approved building plans and it includes a courtyard, but now they want to add things to their courtyard. So do we have say over that or not?
That part of the
In the,
discussion.
within the,
So,
Within
their courtyard.
within their courtyard.
That's a common area part of it,
Well, I mean, EPCON, they're all.
or this is the individual homeowner one.
These are individual homeowners.
And it's just that that's what's great about this zoning code moving forward is because our zoning code really doesn't address a lot of the,
Yeah, our code
EPCON type
doesn't address that. Yeah.
so.
So I looked at the.
You have plans?
I have plans and I have text from, for the PRD
Yeah.
and all that, and, I'm still letting Jen, the lawyer, to say, how do we go about this for that? Because this is really gonna be the first
Well,
of,
send it over and we'll,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
because, I mean, a lot of these are case by case and, we'll develop it. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm assuming a lot of homeowners over there are gonna do the same,
Yeah,
probably Ravello too, so.
One of the things, one of the particular type of homes, and that's one that I have, that I moved into, is that the patio is on the side of the house. And in our zoning code, all patios are supposed to be on the back of the house, so it's little things like that, just kind of see the walls sometimes, so.
Is fire pit something we need a permit for though?
Well, anywhere else it'd be an accessory structure. I mean, it's not a fire pit, it's a fireplace, chimney.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
oh.
When I say fire
Picturing
pit.
like somebody flopping up.
Yeah, it's like,
It's like the oven.
It's a fire pit.
kind of thing with
it's a
the-
fireplace with, Batesburg grill, so.
I said, we have a big copper kettle.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
We don't need a permit. We should permit those.
we do have to say it for that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but we gotta look at the tax for EPCON.
That's
And
what I
to see
have.
how they handled it, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't, then it refers back. Let's see, was there any connection back to our code, or is it standalone? Because if it's not connected back to our code, then we just gotta we may have to modify that
And that's what.
to allow that.
That is right, though, all their like patios, pretty much, because my cousin lives over there, I can go over there, they're all on the side of the house.
Yeah,
So I walked the entire Epcot development looking for if there were any existing, what we're looking to do, and there are none, and there's a couple of hot tubs which we didn't get permits for. Which, do we do that put a hot tub in a courtyard in an Epcot? I think we should, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to look at the text and.
I'll send you what I have.
All right, yeah,
Because
can you
all
send me,
fence-
do you have the copy of the text?
I did.
Send that to me too, and the plans, and
Okay.
we'll get a beat on it. All right,
Anything else?
Nope.
Want to go back to Jerome. First of all, I think Andy said that he would prefer that Jerome work with Mike.
Yeah.
And when I heard, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item.
Next item, okay, so I was asked on the tap-in fee loan. For the folks that are in the Portage Project area. I checked with Columbus's program. They have a term of 99 years, 0% interest. They get paid back if the home is sold. I don't know that that's a really great fit for us. And Franklin County has a lien forgiveness type where it's staggered, depending on how long the person is in the home. So again, it's if a person stays there for 10 years, the loan is completely forgiven. And then from 1 year to the 10, they kind of do a step down on how much you owe. I'm not convinced that that's the best option for the township either. So what I would like to do is do a proposed term of 4 years unless the home is sold within that period of time, in which case the loan would have to be completely paid back. Sold, or it has to go to auction for some reason, whatever, 0% interest. Repayment would either be via tax assessments or proceeds from the sale of the home. But I did talk to Julie over there. I would have loved to have a stipulation that the resident can never, ever annex.
You read my mind.
Can't do that. But we can, no, I actually, I can't really say, she really doesn't believe we can do that. But before pay her more money to look into it, I wanted to see how comfortable we could do that the applicant cannot annex, must remain in the township during the loan repayment period.
So did she say we could do that part?
We can do that part, but if
Yeah.
you want, I was trying not to spend a lot of money.
so under this, so. Okay, I live here, got a tap in. And I now have two options. I can stay in the township and pay the loan back in 40 years, or I can go to the city of Columbus and have 99 years to pay back the loan.
And pay the annexation cost of annexing.
And what's the cost for annexing?
It's, but I think I've seen it maybe as low as 13,000 and
Oh, yes.
well over what, 23rd. high 20s.
Is it based on like the
Yeah.
value of the home, or is it?
I don't
just
know what their thing is, but some of the folks, you know, we've kind of been through this process in
I know.
other areas with Skyline and stuff. They were very, very expensive to annex.
So what does our attorney say?
Well,
Annexation
yeah,
costs.
typically the attorney's fees wouldn't be that much, it would maybe be the engineering. You know, you have to have a legal description of the area being annexed.
Well, it's that's what Columbus charges to go back.
Their fees.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. I mean, you have that
Nothing
too,
disparaging
obviously.
against the.
Yeah,
So you're looking, I know this has come up, this is maybe fourth time, whatever, and we keep asking, what you're wanting to know is term and interest.
yeah, and if I can move forward and have Julie start helping
Develop
prepare the doc,
text.
develop the text, and then I have to get in touch with the auditor's office about how to go about the assessment piece to it as well.
If we were to create it, what would it be?
I mean, if I'm just putting myself in the shoes of somebody like this, so I'm not annexing to the city, especially if it's gonna cost, so if I have to tap in, I have to pay the fees for the tap, right? But if I'm gonna go into, if I say, well, you know what, I can get this loan for the city of Columbus for 99 years at 0%. Then, but I'm gonna pay $13,000 to annex. I'm staying, and then I go back to the township and say. If I'm not gonna. If I don't wanna pay the fee, then. They're gonna stay in the township. So why would we even offer why would we even offer this? It's like, hey, you gotta tap in, so here's your fee. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, why are we making this more complicated? When they're probably not gonna annex in the city of Columbus, and why go through this whole thing of, spending time to set this all, this, loan repayment thing, it's if they're probably not gonna annex it anyway.
Well, I think in my mind, these have been either longtime residents or some residents under our agreement with City of Columbus have chosen to come back because they didn't want to be outside of the township to begin with.
Right.
So for me personally, I guess if I had to equate it as if my kids needed a loan because somebody came and says, hey, you're gonna have to pay me $13,000 for a tap in, and you have to do it within X amount of time. I'd rather help my family member than just say, well, you're on your own. I guess is probably not I'm not wording it well,
Right.
but kid's still gonna be my kid, whether he likes it or not.
So what about, I mean, I get your point. I also get and value people wanting to stay in the township, and I'm disappointed that we can't make them sign that they have to stay forever. That said, what about just determining what our costs are for managing the program and that legal work? And can we like insert a flat fee that covers?
We might be
Or
able to
some
do that.
low interest,
What we need is the text for the application and the process for a person to apply and get approved. Setting up, and it should be similar to how we've done with the PACE program and other, like when we've had properties that were nuisance properties. It's an email to the county, it's saying, okay, we need you to take X amount of dollars from their property taxes when they're paid. So I can find that information out and get Julie to give me a guesstimate of how much.
I mean,
it's gonna
I'm not
be to
even
write
saying like,
something up.
this is obviously just an idea. I'm not trying to make it more complex. I'm just like, okay, if there's something that makes it to where we're not out further and we still get the benefit and the goodwill of providing the 0 interest loan, but there's just some sort of transaction fee that at least
Mary,
covers that. Just an idea.
Well, and so I'll sit there and say, okay. When the sewer line was being replaced in front of my lot, it was 26 feet down. If I don't have insurance, it would have cost me 20 grand
Mhm.
to tap. At no, just for me to do that, and I'm sitting there saying, well, I've been in the township for 20 years. Does the township float me a loan for a $20,000 sewer line that really isn't my fault? It was a result of, utilities that were old. So I guess, I'm just playing devil's advocate of like, why are, like,
You did
Do
get
it.
an extra bathroom for a while, though.
yeah, right on my front door, which was awesome. No, but I'm just sitting there saying, like, are we just becoming too complicated? It's just something like, hey, sorry, but you gotta tap in and this is the fee. But the reality of them annexing to, to the city of Columbus is probably slim to none, so.
Well, but I think there's a possibility. I think the majority of people will stay in the township, but I think there are people that will in this scenario, annex. And I guess the question is, this is not a grant, it's a loan, so you're gonna get the money back over whatever term the board specifies, but you also get their tax revenue for as long as they're in the township. And I agree with Michelle, I'd love to be able to insert the clause that says you can never go annex, but I think you lose that revenue. So for some people, and because for whatever reason, they're looking at opportunities to get this infrastructure work done. And some people aren't as fortunate as others. And I mean, to me, I think this is just a simple extension of our tap-in fee program.
And are these the only parcels that are like, so there's no other,
This is on the Portage project.
right?
So this is the only ones that we are aware of today that are required to tap in because of that project. And we've asked about other projects and we're not aware of other projects. That doesn't mean, I have to be honest, doesn't mean that somewhere down the road, there's not another project on somebody's drawing board.
Can we recoup at a higher interest rate if they do decide to annex?
Well, I'm not sure, and we have a speaker.
Yeah,
ready,
yeah,
So we'll just table this again and move on.
Can she get started?
Well, yeah, that's my initial question, but I just don't wanna
Okay.
hold Mr. Alberts up.
Can we,
Yeah,
and then come back?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do we need to do that in executive session? Is that-
No, Mr. Alberts, I think he's gonna go ahead and present to everybody and
Okay.
then the executive session and then we'll just have to break it up.
You can go into executive session if you want. It's an
Okay.
economic development program, has to do with water and sewer provision of services, et cetera. So
Yeah, I actually have them to go in executive session, but I think it would be helpful for our folks here to kind of hear the options. Is
okay,
that okay
sure,
with
sure.
everybody?
Okay.
Okay.
Where do you want me?
Come on up.
Whatever you'd like.
Okay. Okay. If I'm too far back, I can't see you without putting my glasses. Need to do that. Thank you. I've been working for you for a while, but I know Chet knows how to get a hold of me, but
Thank you.
sure. Okay, what I thought I'd do is just spend a few moments talking about districts, how they're established, what are the costs to establish districts, what are the burdens of proof you have to make when you petition the court to establish a district, et cetera. And then maybe talk a little bit about your particular situation, which I've done a bit with Chat and with your counsel. So I'm aware of your contract with the city of Columbus and how this might work you know, from a perspective of, working collaboratively to get this accomplished, maybe with the city of Columbus, maybe with the county, maybe with Delco or somebody else. But in any event, a regional district, if you established one, it's an independent political subdivision of the state of Ohio. Any township can establish one for a portion of the township or all of the township. Multiple political subdivisions can go together to form a district as well. So municipalities, counties, and townships are the ones that can form a district. And why are districts established? Mainly to provide needed water and sewer services. Most of the districts, I've done about 40 around the state of Ohio. A lot of them are done because of annexation. A lot of them are done because seeking to get those services provided so that developers and owners, homeowners don't have to annex to get those services. So it's one of the more popular methodologies of achieving those services so that annexation is unnecessary. And with, as you know, with services, increased property values, lower insurance rates, there are a lot of benefits associated with forming a district. When you first hired me again, last March, a year ago March, I sent this basic outline of regional districts. I don't know if you all still have that. I'll be glad to send it to you again. But anyway, that's what I'm looking at right now as we go through it. How do you form a district? Well, typically we start with a legal analysis and an engineering study to determine whether or not it's economically feasible to form a district for the area you want to form it for. And if it is, after we do that analysis, and it's usually a preliminary study, typically an engineering firm, if we employ one, will give us cost figures, preliminary cost figures. You don't need to over-engineer the formation of a district. You just need basic information. Ultimately, we have to prove to a court that the establishment of the district is necessary and conducive to public health, safety, convenience, and welfare, and it's economical, feasible, fair, and reasonable. So you do the preliminary study, you make sure it's economically feasible to establish a district, then you submit a petition, that's like your mini constitution for the district you form. And you eventually file what's called a plan of operations to establish the district. And it's a single party proceeding, so I'm usually able to talk to the judge and make sure he's ready and understanding what's happening and why. Now, people can't object to the formation of a district. The statute says anyone affected by subdivisions, homeowners maybe who are affected, etc. They have to establish standing. I won't go into that now. It's not as easy as it sounds to object to the formation of the district, but there is that opportunity to object. So ultimately, we have a hearing before the court. It's a common pleas court of the county where you're located. And the judge at the Court of Common Pleas who's assigned to the case has to decide whether we've met our burden. Typically, these districts, I can't say typically, but they're very often, and a lot of thought and strategy goes into making sure that when we establish a district, we won't get opposition. And sometimes that means we leave areas out of a district because it's very easy to go back and add those areas in once you've formed a district. So we typically go for the low hanging fruit, add to the district later if that's what you want to do. What are the costs to establish a district? They're typically in about the $25,000 to $45,000 range. Depends on engineering. That's for both legal and engineering. I don't know that a lot of engineering would be required here. It depends on what areas you want to serve and what areas and what services you want to provide. Just water, just sewer, water and sewer, etc. So that can make it a little bit more expensive from an engineering and from a legal standpoint. Breaking that down, it's typically probably 20 to 30 for legal and 5 to 10 to 15 for engineering. And that's to have somebody also who's willing to be able to go in to testify in court if necessary. And we also line up other witnesses, because you don't know, somebody can file an objection to the formation of the district on the date of the hearing. So you have to be prepared to deal with that. And still get the district established. Now, let me talk a little bit about Sharon Township and the Mount Air District and what they did, which might be a sort of template for what you are looking at. And what Mount Air did was, or what Sharon Township did was, they got the tacit consent of the city of Columbus to allow Delco to come across the county line and serve an area that desperately needed water and had a failing water system. Not a large area, about 65 homes. I don't know, maybe more than that ultimately, because others have connected, but they allowed the district to be, Columbus did not object to the formation of the district. And let me mention that, 32 years ago, I formed the Jefferson Water Sewer District in Jefferson Township, Ohio. Columbus was not happy about that. We got that done. They were present for the hearing, but they didn't object. So in any event, we got that done, and we've sort of been a thorn in their side at times over the years. So they're leery of districts. Sorry about that. The good news is they did allow the Mount Air District to be formed by Sharon Township. Didn't oppose it, allowed Delco to ignore their agreement and come across the county line and serve an area. So is it possible that they might be willing to do that for Perry Township? Potentially. Now you have an annexation agreement. It's quite complicated, and it provides for annexation and detachment and services. But ultimately, it doesn't allow really for the areas where you're allowed to annex, but still get services. The language of the contract is pretty much limited to services by either the city or the county. So forming a district to provide those services might be difficult. And Columbus might object. I don't know if they would or not, but, and then for the areas that are not within areas where there's an agreement that they can be serviced, it's Columbus who would have to annex, and they would then provide the services. So your current contract doesn't hold out to me. I think that the better possible use of a district, if you want to form a district, would be to do what Sharon Township did and talk to Columbus about it, see if they have any problems with you forming a district, and then use the district primarily as a financing vehicle. That's what Mount Air is. It did an assessment. It assessed benefited property owners where the lines were running. It's an assessment that occurs over 30 years for the cost of the construction of the project, pays Delco back. Delco owns and operates the water system, not Mount Air. Mount Air simply collects the assessments and turns them over to Delco. Would that sort of arrangement work? Potentially, if Columbus maybe is willing to allow a district to be formed or not oppose it in order to extend their line, or in order to extend the county's line, or in order to extend Delco's line. Any of those are possibilities. But I think it probably would be behoove you to discuss it with Columbus, kind of like Sharon Township did, and see what their thoughts are on the matter, because you do have a contract that presents some difficulties. I'm not saying you couldn't form a district, it would just be, I think, difficult to do so.
John,
Yes.
was Sharon Township's just water district?
Mhm.
They didn't do the sewer?
No,
Now, how difficult is it to add a district onto, like, if they formed district? To say, is a whole nother setting up it, or can they add sewer onto a water district once the district has been set up?
Yeah, once the district is set up, Sharon Township or other properties within Sharon Township can add properties to the district without going back to court. But to add properties from outside of Sharon Township, you would have to go back to court and petition to expand the borders of the district,
Right,
to include those additional areas.
okay, and they don't have to be adjacent.
They don't.
Would that be,
So-
would that be a challenge? I mean. Do you have a situation where one township is established a district and then another township comes in and says, hey, can you add to your district by taking on some of our areas?
Mhm.
So it exists,
Pardon?
that opportunity exists. though.
Mhm, mhm. And, you know,
It's
and
just
typically,
water though. Can you add
Water
sewer?
and
I mean,
sewer.
Right,
yeah.
well, you have to go back to court for that as
Right.
well. If you only have authority to provide water,
You gotta go back.
you gotta go
court
back
for
to
sewer.
court to get that authority, and then you have to do the whole thing over again and prove that it's economically feasible to provide sewer as well. I have a lot of clients who have formed both water and sewer districts and just put one in their pocket, mostly sewer. Like, they don't really want to provide sewer, they really want to provide water, and they provide, I got a district up in northern Ohio, and for 25 years, they've done water. They did a voted bond in the township to provide township-wide water. Unusual for districts, but that's what they did, and they formed a water and sewer district, but they've never provided sewer.
But easier to kind of fight the fight once for both, is that the thought?
Yeah, I mean, if you have some low hanging fruit, if you have some areas that are obviously economically viable to get serviced by someone. For like sewer. So if
So
you
what-
really want water and you got some other areas. That are, you know, we think are very viable to serve with sewer as well, yeah. do
but you're
a
going
lot.
back to court, so if you went to, if, say we went to Sharon and said, hey, you know, we wanna add property, you think we're still going back to court. To basically add those
Yeah,
properties outside of Sharon Township.
well, yes, you would. Now, you'd have to get the consent of actually the Mount Air district to do that. And number two, you still got your contractual obligations with Columbus.
Mhm.
So are we an other provider that is contemplated under that agreement? It does talk about other providers being able to provide the services, but then it has language that seems to limit it to county and city services, so. Again, I think it would be difficult to expand the Mount Air district and serve areas in contravention of that agreement. Yeah,
So, I mean, one of the areas that we talked about is the Linworth area. I mean, so in our map and our agreement, they've always been in the township, never been in Columbus. There is no infrastructure for water or sewer in there. And obviously, we talked about this agreement with Columbus, and residents are saying now, when can I get my water? So, but there's no lines to get the water there. Now, Columbus lines run right down Linwood,
okay,
obviously.
well, why aren't they being served? I mean, does Columbus not want to serve them?
We never got that far. I mean, we haven't approached them on that.
Okay.
We were just so busy worrying about the annexation agreement, trying to wrap that up, that we knew in our conversations with Columbus, we've talked about different areas that it covers. And so those areas where they were going to remain within the township, but did not have service, either water or sewer because of infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure. They knew we would have to be coming back to them for that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think it makes total sense then to propose the formation of a district for that area. And it could be the entity that accomplishes that through assessment, assessing benefited landowners who are adjacent to the services. And
But it's
depending
just
on,
an assessment body. I mean, it's a body that raises the money or applies for
Yeah.
the money for OWDA or whoever.
Right, right.
And then it's serviced by Columbus, the city of Columbus. We'd have to work with them on infrastructure.
What would happen and what happened in Mount Air was the district board levies the assessment. And if anyone objects to their assessment, it goes before an equalization board and they're entitled to a hearing. But most assessments, I mean, depending on the cost of the project, most assessments increase the value of the home by the amount of the assessment or more. Availability of central services is greatly enhances the value of most properties. So we don't typically worry about the ability, unless the cost is $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. The assessment is gonna pass muster. Say it's 12,000. That's gonna pass muster. So you could levy an assessment, whether the owner likes it or not, against all lots and improved properties within that subdivision. They would be able to pay it back over whatever period of time the board selects. And when you form a district, typically the townships who form the district want to appoint the board members. That's what Mount Air has done. That's what Jefferson District does. That's what most of the entities.
But it's an independent board.
It is.
I mean, once they're appointed, they're
Yes,
independent and they act as such.
correct. They're an independent political subdivision, so, but you appoint the board members. You know, I was following a little bit your conversation before, where you were talking about some kind of arrangement whereby people can get a loan from the township to put in services and then pay it back over time. Is that
Yeah,
what you have?
it's a frontage loan.
We don't have it in place.
We don't have that part.
Discussing.
Well, let me give you another idea while I'm here that you can think about. A lot of times, instead of involuntary assessments where people are compelled to pay the assessment that is levied on their property, we let people do a voluntary assessment. And then they sign the appropriate documents and it becomes a lien on their property. And they can pay it over whatever period of time you want to allow them to pay it back. And so in this case, the township would either front the money or borrow the money. And the homeowner, whoever signs up for this, if they want it, would be able to put a voluntary assessment on their property to pay it back. They'll pay it biannually with their property taxes. If they fail to pay, you can collect it. Now, the only thing that interferes with that is bankruptcy can potentially interfere with your ability to collect it. But putting it on property taxes makes it a lot safer investment for you than having a contract which can be abrogated in any number of ways. So a voluntary assessment is something that for hard to do projects where there are potentially owners who might find it unaffordable, that's another option.
Do you have a sample of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've done it a lot.
Of course you do.
We're doing it in Licking County right now.
Okay.
Can you send me that, please? That'd be great.
Sure. I mean, I can send you what others have done, what it looks
Right.
like.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. But, yeah, you know, there's not a whole lot of magic to it. It's like, kind of like putting a mortgage on your home. Sign the right documents. It's recorded. So it runs with the land. And, so
Okay.
it's there. And if they, sell their property, typically the assessment is paid off then.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate the advice.
No problem.
Well, then we'll put that on hold, that topic on hold,
Okay.
and try to get some additional information.
Any questions about districts?
Any more questions? Okay. Are you able to stay around just for a little bit longer?
Sure.
Are you gonna go into executive session?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so we'll go through this quick if we can, the rest of the business. Go ahead, Beth. Yeah, a couple more items.
Let's see, I'm trying to go back here, so the opioid settlement is due on the 18th.
It'll be done by this Friday. I'll have it signed and done.
I think the requisition forms, we'll just, I do want to I just need some advice on these. The proposals requisition forms that I kind of came up with. I mean, part of the thing was to make whoever is going out for something, kind of think through the process, get numbers in place. Also had, kind of set what's, the intent was to set a deadline for decision making. And, things aren't going as well as I thought they were going to. So I would appreciate some input, how we can kind of get this, you know, the idea was to have one reading, give a period of time for questions. So whomever had a chance to get the information back, schedule the second reading and get a decision so we can move forward.
Beth, I think the thing that I see most often is not thinking through everything. You know, it's like we tend to focus in on one item, but then it's like, oh, well, yeah, we gotta get that. Like the one I saw was the drone. So we get the drone, but then we had $1,600 in legal fees because we had to get things legally tied up, and that wasn't included in the thing. So we made the approval and the purchase of the drone, but then we had $1,600 in cost because we didn't, like, oh shit, we gotta come up with a legal structure to allow us to do that. I think from my standpoint, it's, you know, like we also saw the generator, yeah, we focused in on the generator. Thought through different fueling sources, which we ended up finding one, but then it was like, oh, the switch gear, we gotta look at the switch gear. I think whenever a request is made, from my standpoint, it's like, can we think about everything so we have it all wrapped up, and when we make that approval, I think it's gonna make things go a lot faster. I think from my standpoint, I just want to make sure that we've kind of we've looked under all the rocks and everything like that. We've looked at our due diligence. Hey, yeah, we gotta replace this, but you know, here are all the other things. And oh, by the way, with this, it's also going to ripple into these other things. So that's kind of my standpoint. If we can find a way of, you know, when something's brought to the board and you know you have everything all set, it would be great. And then ultimately the operations of it too. You know, like the fog cameras. You know, it's like, yeah, it's a new technology, but the thing that I want to look at is like, what's the return on investment? We could buy technology until we're blue in the face, but if it's not helping us, where I'm saying is like, you spend money here, but it reduces our cost here. That's what I'm looking for in terms of the return on investment. If it helps our officers do things better, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just, you know, it's like, what's the return on investment, and thinking through that expenditure to make sure that we're, you know, we truly understand what we're going to do.
Well, I think, and you and I talked about this, it's just, none of us are experts in any particular field, whether it's a generator or a new camera system or whatever the case may be, which is why I had said, you know, from now on, I'm going to be bringing the people in who know this stuff.
Right.
But I think I know in our group here, we have staff meetings just before all of our board meetings. And I always say that we think better as a group than we could ever do individually. So there might be a police matter and I might catch on to something, well, what about this? Kind of thinking out away from the police department mindset or my mindset. And so the same thing holds true bringing these proposals in is, well, at first we were looking at diesel. It's like, well, did anybody think about looking at natural gas? Well, Ian's not, he didn't go to school to learn about all the different generators out there. So it's like, well, okay, now we can look at that. So my point being is that when we have something out there, I think everybody has a certain level of responsibility to provide some feedback, or just from experience or doing whatever, saying, hey, by the way, while you're researching this, why don't make sure you're taking this into account, or, you know, here, I've got this contact, why don't you call that person? There's just no way we can always hit the nail on the head on every single thing. And this is a relatively new process too. So, so if I don't, for example, if I don't get any questions, I don't know to look for the answers, you know, and you're gonna have ideas that on certain things that I'll have no clue about, but I'm still trying to work through a particular process to get what the township needs or whatever. And you know, as I also mentioned, that meeting is like, I have 3 different bosses. I try and read everybody's mind, and after knowing you guys for such a long period of time, I kind of know what Jim likes to see, what you like to see, what Chet likes to see. But I don't know, I can't get in there and just automatically know. So if, whether it's department heads or me or the trustees, you have to be vocal and kind of help us through this process to so that, because I think it's a good process. I think it makes us think through things, but there's just so much that's out of our realm, but yet we're tasked with coming up with options.
Yeah, and I, you know, one more thing is I also think it goes back to, you know, what the current economic situation of the township is. You know, like I look at, and to be honest with you, I really think with us sitting down once a year and kind of going through a budgeting process of meeting, like we did last year, all the department heads came in with their like, okay, this is what we want to accomplish the next year. But that even goes on the township end of things. It's like, hey, we want to be able to do this next year and think through that. Think through that whole process, like, hey, I want this, and this. Okay. And then we talk about it as a board. We provide our feedback. You may not get approved for this, and this, and the board may say, you know what, we like this initiative, we want to do it, but it gets everybody thinking a year in advance of what they want to do and not here and now. The wellness program that, you know, that has been bounced back and forth. I look at it as maybe not now, but let's look at it when we're looking at our healthcare this fall, you know, like, because it's all wrapped up in healthcare, instead of adding it onto the existing healthcare that we have, let's hold on to it and then say, how does that factor into when we reapprove new health insurance? How does that you know, thing factor into our overall, it's something that we can look at you know, for the entire township. Those are the things that I'm looking at and making sure to do. But I think getting everybody to think the year in advance, sitting down, let's talking about it in terms of what each department wants to do, and then saying, okay, yeah, let's approve that, let's do that. And we know the cost going in, which I think helps put budgets together for the next year. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I know that we're supposed to be having a budget meeting this month. And I think I had asked for if we could do that quarterly. I don't care. I know that certain things get wrapped up and there needs to be time to kind of put the bow around certain things, but I just think having a quarterly conversation is going to help us kind of walk through that. Now, getting back to the form, and I know John's back there, and all good attorneys, I'm sorry, are hourly rates, so I'm going to rush here real quick. But I think it's going to be hard to put together a form that everybody is going to get all of the marks. And I think you just have to do your best, but I think it really is incumbent upon the Board of Trustees to give feedback. And when I say give feedback, that doesn't mean, oh, second reading, now I have some questions. And the reason that the second reading was put in place, not that we're required to have a second reading, but to get us thinking about that topic. Okay, what are the things that we probably should be looking at? Should we have someone come in and talk about this particular topic? Is there a salesperson, an expert in that field that can kind of explain to us why we need this, don't need this, here are the attributes to it. So I think it's always important that if there is someone, an expert in that field, that they come before the board and we make that effort. Because they know their business better than we do. But I think we just try to start with basically a form and a proposal outline, and the board's just going to have to give you feedback. I mean, they're just going, is going to have to get feedback on it. And we say, this works, that doesn't work. I need this in here because I'm looking at it this way. But having no response is not acceptable. No, it's not acceptable for you to give us no response and vice versa. We should be giving you the same amount of response to staff and the department heads. So that's my thing about the board, is that we just need to be engaged in that way. So that's my 2 cents. And I know I'm rushing through this. Andy, you said the opioid settlement, you're gonna go ahead and get signed on Friday. Was there anything in that? I did never.
I'm working my way through it and reading
Okay.
it, so.
And you're gonna check on the civilian advisory board. Okay, anything else?
No, thank you.
Good. Okay, fiscal officer.
Request a motion to approve the release of the payment of $39,586.65 from the Franklin County Auditor funds that were collected to the Worthington Health Space.
So moved.
Second,
Vote.
yes,
Yes.
Request a motion for approval of payroll and disbursements.
we'll make that motion,
Second. Vote.
yes.
Yes. Anything else for the good order before we go to executive session?
I can change it.
Okay.
I'm okay to do
Okay.
Oh,
I'll just.
Mary, we need to get something on his calendar. I don't know.
Can you just come pick up his phone and put that on? I move to recess into executive session pursuant to section 121.22 subsection G subsection 8 of the Ohio Revised Code for the purpose of considering confidential information related to negotiations with other political subdivisions request for economic development assistance, and such information is directly related to a request for economic development assistance that is to be provided or administered under sections 5709.73 to 5709.75 the Ohio Revised Code. The executive session is necessary to protect possible investment of public funds to be made in connection with the economic development project and concerning employee compensation pursuant to ORC 121.22 subsection G1 by roll call vote. Mr. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
Nice job.
Wow.